Hello, freak bitches. I've always wondered what it's like when you are when you're beginning as an artist. You know, you're idealistic. You have all these ideas about what the future could be. Who knows? It's all wide open, and then all of a sudden, many years later, you are a fucking massive superstar selling out arenas. How difficult is it to find people who understand where your head is at?
Impossible.
Do you like seek out other superstar musicians and talk to each other?
I did, and I got nowhere there either.
Really?
Yeah, I've had a hard time ever getting like good data. Let's put it that way. The freakiest thing was I saw how it changed my inner world, meaning friends and family.
How so?
My step-grandfather, who was a World War II vet, very closed down, classic Eisenhower Republican type of guy. Smart, you know what I mean? Had literally zero interest in me as a kid. I mean, negative zero interest. And one day I'm sitting there at Christmas, and now Grandpa wants to talk to me about the economics of my success.
Whoa.
And it's like that got through to him because some guy at work or somebody at the church brought me up, and it was like, oh, that's my grandson, you know. Nothing about childhood, God. You know, childhood tears did anything, but that, you know, I saw where it warped the gravity in my family. And then you get the friend like, you know, you're different. It's like, yeah, I'm different. Of course I'm different. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, I've got $1 million in my pocket. You know what I mean? I could buy, you know. Yeah. I mean, you know, I one day walked into Beverly Hills and paid cash for a Ferrari. You know, just dumb stuff like.
That's kind of awesome, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
people don't like the idea of that.
No, I think it's funny, right?
It's amazing. You bought a Ferrari with money that you had on you. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, and it was the classic story. I walk in, the guy didn't know who I was. Of course. He's like, so how are you going to pay for this? And I was like, cash.
You have a brick with you.
He's like,
wow, that's just an awesome thing to be able to do.
So
if you
stupid,
can do
right?
It.
It's just like, so I'm saying you go from like literally complete, not abject, poor. I had no money,
right?
You know, and then one day I'm like throwing, you know, G's around for dumb cars and.
Well, it's also you reach such a high level that there's nothing above that. Like
I have the antidote. My manager, who was, you know, we were with the Metallica guys at the time. He called me on like a Wednesday or something, and he said, "I can't say for sure, but more than likely, based on the calls we're getting, you're going to be #1 this week," meaning Melancholy. And I literally said, "Is there a position higher?" Yeah. Like I couldn't process that there wasn't like another step.
You couldn't keep going.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I always wondered. Like when you reach a certain level and you're selling out these giant arenas and you're one of the biggest bands literally ever. You're like one of the top 100 biggest bands of all time, right? Arguably.
Yeah, we're in there, yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Where the fuck do you go? Like, it had to be this
madness.
Weird... Yeah, I would imagine that madness is the only option.
Madness. Yeah, madness sort of becomes attractive at that point.
God, that's got to be so strange to be just crushing it, selling out these giant arenas, #1 songs going, now what? What the fuck do we do? Do we fade away?
No, we went crazy. Yeah, we just lost our minds.
Like, what happened? What was the process? Did you see it slipping away? Did you see the madness?
Yeah. And it became, you know, it's like a bad relationship or bad relationships. It becomes a lot clearer when you're out. You know, at the time you sort of do your own rationalization. Like, oh, he or she's going crazy, not me. We all went crazy in 4 different directions.
Wow.
And the great shame of my band was musically we were super tight and we never disagreed on music. It was like this weird phenomenon where musically we were like totally in sync. We could produce and write music very, very quickly, and it was always the other stuff around us. So that sort of ate at the core, and then when we lost our personal relationship, that's what diminished the musical relationship. But you don't know it at the time because you're sort of, I don't want to say arrogant's not the right word, but it's like you have a sort of a, you know, you got a little bit of a thing in your walk, and you think you got the world by the you know what, and all good. You think you can power your way through anything because you have.
Right.
you don't understand that you do actually need the people standing next to you. I have such a greater appreciation for my bandmates now that I've seen what we actually did accomplish in it's surrounded by chaos, but then we created our own chaos, and then at some point it all blurs.
What were the things that fucked it up? Was it the money and the fame, and was it the tension? Was it the ego?
I think we were like one of those bad behind the musics. It was very early conversation. I remember we had these managers very early on, and they were coming to town sort of courting us before we had a record deal. And one day they came to town and they said, "Can we just go out to breakfast with you?" Which was weird because it was always the whole band, like, democracy. And they said, "Now who writes the songs?" And I said, "Well, I do." And they said, "Well, that's going to be a problem." I'm like, "What do you mean that's going to be a problem?" They said, "Well, songwriters and bands make a lot more money. So our suggestion is you should share your songs with your bandmates to keep sort of a kind of a democratic stasis." And they used some examples of bands who did it. And I thought, hell no, I'm not giving them my work. I mean, it's my songs. And they were like, "You don't understand. You're going to make a lot more money." And I was like, tough shit. You know what I mean? It's like live and learn kind of thing.
Why did they think you were going to make more money? Because
songwriters get, if you, quick lesson, the songwriter gets paid separate statutorily by the government than the actual copyright of the recording. So if I'm on Joe Rogan's label, you pay the band for the recording, which of course in that case would be split 4 ways, but you owe me a statutory rate as a songwriter for the sale, which I think these days is about 10 cents. So every record we sold where I was the sole songwriter, I was getting 10 cents that they weren't getting, or 8 cents or whatever it was at the time. So you can imagine over a gazillion records sold, it added up.
Yeah.
So I start pulling away financially. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But when you're a kid and you're 23 and somebody's having this conversation with you and you literally don't even have an apartment,
right?
And somebody's trying to tell you how you're going to make a lot more money, it's like, what does that mean?
Right.
Fast forward 4 years later and it's like, I'm making a lot more money. So that sort of sows it organically sows discontent.
Yes.
It's whether you call it jealousy or not. And then as I emerged as sort of the auteur and the big mouth in the band and maybe the person who was most willing to be controversial or whatever, we'd get in a room with journalists and they would just talk to me. And then we get out of the interviews and the band members would yell at me for them not being asked questions. So it's like this weird thing, like it was my responsibility to push them more as stars, or
so it's not just about the music, it's about being appreciated and successful and famous.
Now, in hindsight and in fairness to them, I didn't appreciate why it was important to them. Because in their minds, we're all equal, we're in the room together. Yeah, you write the songs, that's cool, but at least give me the social currency of being recognized, or or somebody would offer me alone a magazine cover. And if I was smart, which I wasn't, I should have said no, only the band or nothing. But I was like, sure, put me on the cover, I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Right. You probably would have thought they would do the same thing if someone came to
Absolutely.
them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, of course, it becomes tit for tat. Then, like, 2 of the band members went on their own and made a record deal without me. They got somebody to give them a bunch of money to start a label, which they had every right to do. You know what I mean? So suddenly they're like making side deals, and it starts getting all that weird business. And again, it's like an erosion factor. You don't appreciate it from within. There's a lot of compression. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then one day it sort of hollows out. And then it's too late. You can't just sort of sit down and have a meeting and make it all okay, because the wounds are deep. And in our case, I mean, the wounds lasted I didn't talk to Darcy for 17 years.
Whoa.
And I didn't talk to James for, I think, 16.
Wow.
So the heat was real. I mean, there were lawsuits and all sorts of stuff. And
it's such a common story that I hope someone listens to this part of your conversation as well.
They won't.
It's just human nature, right? Is that what it is?
Power corrupts, man.
Yeah.
And again, no sympathy asking.
But wouldn't today, though? I mean, it wouldn't today. Like, I feel like if you were in a similar position today, you'd have hindsight in your favor.
I would.
Right?
I mean, and even talking about the band going back on a tour and the possibility of that, it's like I approach it completely different.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, power doesn't necessarily corrupt. It corrupts if you don't know what the fuck it's going to do to you.
Sure, yeah. But again, and I'm not preaching for sympathy, but and I can't speak for the modern music business, but the business we were in the 90s, we were surrounded by people who were giving us wrong information. Now, were they giving us wrong information on purpose or because they weren't bright enough? I don't know, but we weren't getting the right information. Very few people actually try to sit us down and say, look, this is going to be a problem. Trust me. It's like you're in there with the hounds and there's just...
Right, and they probably don't have the time for psychological management anyway. They're probably in the middle of just trying to figure out how to make money off you. And
my understanding is again, going back to the conversation I had with the executive, they just basically look and they say you've got 4 years if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
So why are they going to spend a bunch of time trying to hold your hand, knowing you're going to lose anyway?
What a crazy relationship between the record labels and the artists.
It's similar, I guess, probably to like the pit boss. If you're having a hot run at like roulette, and the pit boss is just like, enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get it back. That's what it feels like.
What percentage of musicians or musical artists that get signed by a label and put something out ever wind up having an actually successful career?
Probably less than 10%.
Jesus Christ.
I would say it's probably even smaller.
What a meat grinder of a business. You would think like, hey, man, we're on fucking Warner Brothers, dude. We made it. It's happening. They're going to promote us. They're going to push us. They signed us.
And sorry to interrupt again, but the other weird thing is, the system I was in was, even if you were successful, it was set up to make you feel like you weren't successful.
Right.
Because that was the work. That was the manipulation.
Yeah.
I once said to somebody who is a very famous name in the business, it's like you guys find a needle in the haystack and then you spend the next 20 years telling them they're not a needle in the haystack.
Right.
What I'm trying to say, and I'm not saying it well, is you would think you would be surrounded by people who are telling you, you're talented, you're special, we want to help you because the more you succeed, we'll succeed and we'll all succeed together. It was the exact opposite. It was like, no, you're dumb, you're wrong, no, you're crazy, don't do that, you're going to ruin it. And even if you'd say, I want to wear this hat, okay, I'm going to wear this hat. And when it wouldn't work, they'd say, see, you should have listened to us.
Is that universal? Have you heard other musicians say the same thing?
I would guess it was universal, because looking back, it doesn't feel personal to me. It felt like I use your bad analogy, pimp ho, I don't know.
Right.
It's a weird con job thing. That was my experience. There's a lot of con jobs.
That Courtney Love piece that she wrote about the music business, I'm sure you're aware of that, where she explained...
Was it recent or?
No, a bunch of years ago, where I think it was actually probably before digital got really huge. And it was, a lot of people thought she had a ghostwriter, but it was really eye-opening to a lot of people that didn't know anything about the music business, like where the money actually goes and how much money has to be spent and how little you actually make, even though if you sell a shit ton of records. You've never seen this? It's pretty famous.
No. From 2000, actually. It's on salon.com.
Yeah.
Oh,
it might have been one of the years we weren't talking.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, it's for people who haven't read it, it's pretty eye-opening. I've nothing to do with the music business. I've always been absolutely fascinated as a completely objective observer, just looking at it, going, this whole thing seems so crazy because it's... If you do not get signed, and if you do not get promoted, at least until recently, you had no chance. They literally controlled the reins in the direction of your career, almost like an actor. Like, you can't make it as an actor unless you get an audition and someone chooses to put you in a film.
But like a great Greek mythology type myth thing, the music business has made two critical mistakes over the last 30 or so years that led to its current sort of reduced status. One was they let MTV run amok on free content. And when they tried to rein MTV in, MTV basically told them to take a hike, and the music business backed down. So when MTV stopped playing music content, there was nothing the music business could do because they'd given away all their leverage to MTV. And then the second was when Napster showed up, and they acted like Napster was a virus that they just needed to stamp out, not really realizing that Napster was just the beginning of a whole wave of new technologies and new sort of social interactions or something. Those two critical errors led to the music business reduced position.
And it's this music, I mean, music has been around forever, but the music business has been around, what, 100 or so years?
Yeah, I think we're into 120 plus years of recordings.
Yeah, it's just amazing what an iron fist they've managed to control the business with, and to sort of wrangle all the artists for the most part.
Well, it's Wizard of Oz, you know.
Yeah.
Don't look behind the curtain.
Have you ever thought about being on the other side?
Yeah, I have, but I just don't have that much. I'm actually, that's why I'm more interested in wrestling. I think I like that. I like even though it's a sort of weird business, I sort of like that because it doesn't have anything to do with music. I have too much damage and too many, I don't think I could see clearly. Does it make sense? It's like, it's still too weird for me.
Yeah, no, it does. It does make sense.
When I first came to LA in whatever 90 and had the meetings, and you'd be in that hit the office and the people with the beards and everything, and they'd be like, so when we put the product out, and every time they would say product, I would sort of wince. Product, like, how can you call my art product? You know what I mean? And that's, to them, it's just, it's cookies and toilet paper. It's just, it's whatever.
Wow.
And it's not to say they're not fans and they don't appreciate, or they don't care, but at the end of the day, it's just some sort of weird business, And like all institutional cultures that are sort of kind of corrupt at their core, it just sort of runs on its own inertia. It just does.
When you see someone like Chance the Rapper break out of that system, do you think that that's a model that can be followed, or is he just like an outlier?
No, it's certainly a model that can be followed, but it probably works because he's so talented. It's like a weird combination.
Right.
I mean, use the McGregor example. It's like, how many McGregors are there in the world?
Right.
And beyond being a skilled fighter, I mean, the guy's an A-level talker. Speaking from a professional wrestling standpoint, the guy's probably the best promo in the world.
Yeah.